Open up to Matthew chapter 9. And see, the real point of that isn't, having an event, because that's, a lot of people have the events, and it's just an event. But this was really from the heart, was the choosing of God, which is all important. So this is a very real important thing that just was sealed. Verse 9, Matthew 9, verse 9. That's where we are when we do Matthew. Verse 9. And as Yeshua, Jesus, passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting in the tax office. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and he followed him. This is also about a calling, and it's about a choosing of the Lord. And this is called the house of Matthew. Probably happened in the outskirts of Capernaum. Matthew is sitting at the tax collector's booth. Most likely he's a customs agent. He is charging duties on goods. He is, there is a trade route going back and forth. There's two different territories, so he's right at the crossing and he's making a lot of money. Matthew, other Gospels call him Levi. Common that you have two names back then. It could have been Matthew ben Levi, that's Matthew son of Levi. It could have been, his name could have been Matityahu or Mattai or Amittai, which most likely it was Matityahu, which, I'll tell you what it means as we go on. But the whole gospel here is Matthew. This whole gospel, Matthew wrote it. Now the rabbis in the Sanhedrin, in the Talmud, wrote about 5 disciples of Yeshu. They wrote about 5 disciples of Yeshua. The first one they called Mattai. No doubt this was linked to Matthew. They called him Matthew. They got some others confused. They seem to be calling another one Nicodemus. But the Matthew thing seems to be right on. Matthew, who was he? He was a tax gatherer. He was despised. He was the worst class of people. He collaborated with the Romans. They were the occupiers. So everybody hated the Jews who collaborated with the Romans. They extorted money from their fellow Jews. They extorted money. You could make a lot of money. You'd buy a franchise. You'd buy it from the Romans. You could have this route here, and you could get all the money that comes out of it. So this was his profession. You could make a lot of money as a tax gatherer if you had no morals. And so you'd be totally separated from your people. You'd only hang out with the underworld because they're the only people who would be with you. Because everybody else hated you. They were despised by the religious people. They were despised by the Pharisees. Nobody wanted them. So one day he's on the job. He's doing his thing. And probably he sees this rabbi come by named Yeshua. And he sees the miracles. He sees something happen. Something had to happen before this. So the thing is, now he's on the job. He's making money at his post, collecting money, ripping people off. And Messiah passes by. Yeshua is passing by. Now he's busy thinking about his money, his business, how he's going to make more money, and all of a sudden Yeshua passes by. That's the way he does it. Jesus, Messiah, just passes by. He doesn't wait till you're ready. He never waits till it's the opportune time. He just comes by. He passes by, And we don't always have all the time in the world to say yes to Messiah. Even as believers, especially not as believers, he passes by. We're not always open to it. But even as believers, he passes by our life and says, "Come." And we're not always ready. Often we are too wrapped up in what we're doing. We can say, "Lord, I'm ready. I'll follow you. What do you want me to do? But I'm too busy serving you. I'm too busy ministering for you." But it says, "This is me. Come." Or I'm too busy not doing that. People of God were always called. And they didn't have all the time in the world. They were called. They had the moment. God calls us. And he reaches out in our life. We don't have all the time in the world to say yes to come to salvation. Or to grow. Or to go where he's going. Or we can miss our calling. God has a calling. He would say, where are you? He'd say, Abraham. Abraham would say, Hineni, which means, here I am. But it also means, I'm here now, I'm ready. Here's yours in Hebrew. Hineni, who shall we send? Isaiah. Hineni, I'm here, I'm ready now. Jonah, I'm not here. I'm out of the way. But then finally he came back. Sometimes God gives a second chance. He gave a second chance to Jonah. But he doesn't always do that. While he often passes by, the presence of God calls us often when we're busy. And we're busy with the details and distraction. That's what Matthew's doing. He's money, money, money. You cannot serve God and money. Money can be used for God, but you cannot serve it. You have to break away. He comes at a time when you don't expect. He says, when the Son of Man comes to this world, he will come at a time you do not expect. The first time he came, they didn't expect him, even though the prophets said it would be then. So it says when he comes the second time, you will not expect it. It will not come when you're expecting it. There will be an Israel back in the world. We know that. That's the prophecy said. There will be all nations against Israel. That's part of it. But nevertheless, people will be so wrapped up in worldliness that they will not see it as it comes. And so why do we think that in our life he comes when we expect it? He comes. We have to be open. Lord, when he calls, when he tugs on your heart, that's when he's saying, now go. Don't wait. Don't let it go. Don't let it pass. He says he sees Matthew, this despised man, money-hungry man, undoubtedly. He sees them. He turns to him, this rabbi, turns to him and says, follow me. Kum, follow me. Rise and follow me. Now, this must be shocking for everybody watching, because they don't have anything to do with him, and here's this man who's supposed to be holy, this rabbi, and he is saying, follow me, you. I'm choosing you. They're saying, wait a minute, if he knew what he was doing, if he was really a prophet, he would not call Matthew. If he would not, he's got to know better. But he says, follow me. See, God sees what you're going to be in him if you follow. Matthew. Every time that the Lord asks you to do something, it's an honor. We take, oh, you got to do this. He wants it. It's an honor to follow the Lord. It's an honor. It's like, look at it like Matthew was looking at him saying, what? Even Matthew saying, do you know who I am? I'm not a yeshiva student. I'm not an Orthodox. I'm not a Torah person. I don't know this. Do you know what? You sure you know? You sure you got this right? He knows it's an honor. Every time God asks you to do something, don't say, oh, I got to obey God. It's an honor to do the will of God. And you're going to be blessed for it. And so, he gets up. He gets up. It says, and he rose and he followed him. He said, follow me. He rose and he followed him. In order to follow Messiah, you have to rise. In order to follow Messiah, the first command is rise. Rise. You can't follow. If he stayed on that seat, he wouldn't be able to get out. He had to first rise. Rise from what he was doing. Rise from the money. Rise from the worldliness. Rise from it. Let me get away from it. Rise and follow. Rise, the first command. What's the first power God gives you? What is the first thing he did? He rose. Rise. God says that to his prophets. Arise and follow. So he rose. And he said, and he rose and he went. Follow me, the Lord says, to all of you. All of us. But how can you follow him if you don't move? You know? That's the problem with most churches. It's the problem with most synagogues before that. And most churches, the problem is that the Lord is moving, but they're not. And so the main thing is we try to stay comfortable in the thing, but the Lord says, if you're going to follow me, how can you stay in the same place? You cannot stay in the same place if you're following me, or else either the Lord's not going somewhere or you're not going, something's going on. And the Lord would not say, follow me if he wasn't moving. So God is moving. God is moving. And so if you stay in the same thing, you're not going to be with God. You're not going to move with him. Follow me means I am moving somewhere. When you hear the message, you need to be, the Spirit would move you. The Ruach The wind in Hebrew, the spirit, the wind, is a thing that you can't have a wind that's not moving. It moves you. And so if you're not moved, you're not moving. It's not the spirit. Now that you can say, well, I'm moved, but if it's not moving your life, you can say, it's moving my emotions. Okay, it's moving your emotions. But if it's not moving your life, you're not really being moved. When you hear a word, go with it. When you hear God speak through this, you stand up and you go. You do it, saying, I'm doing it. I'm going with him. I'm moving with him. So, well, that's works. No, it's the Spirit, and you're going with it.
To find out how you can receive more of Jonathan's teachings, to receive special free gifts, or get in touch, go to hopeoftheworld.org or call toll-free 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's hopeoftheworld.org or call 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's 1-800-937-4821. You can also get more at Jonathan Cahn's Facebook page or write us direct at Hope of the World, Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey 07644, USA.